Europa's Blood, a novel by James Daniel Shunk. In our last chapter, U-Jin Song and Robbie Moreland are left lost in the future. They are not sure how to find their lost time machine and get home. They have asked Pitzy, a local girl, for help. Chapter 3. Justice Precinct 001. When Pitzy awoke Song and Moreland, it was early morning and dark. Song was shivering and could see his breath. Pitzy gave them directions to the police headquarters. She had called it the Justice Precinct 1. While she outlined the route, she burned her tent in the campfire. Before burning her backpack, Pitzy extracted the familiar memory stick and stuck it into her tattered jacket's inner pocket. Pitzy did not explain the burning of the gear. After Song carefully noted all the instructions, he and Moreland headed back across the island to their boat. They were soon seated, quietly rowing over the choppy, trash-covered bay. A mist was rising off the water, leaving a haze around them. The morning sky slowly turned gray as the sun crept up behind a canopy of clouds and pollution. The small group of homes resting on the point bluff looked to be nestled in a little green haven at the feet of a steel and glass giant. South, Song saw a complex network of docks with massive moored yachts stretching as far as the eye could see. North, circled by seagulls, were seagoing barges piled high with garbage, moving out of the bay toward the ocean's open waters with black smoke billowing from their smokestacks. As the rowboat approached the dock, Moreland said only one thing. "It is uncanny how the general lay of the land here resembles Bayville." Song let the comment wash over him and dissipate. He recalled Pitzy's first set of instructions when he climbed onto the dock. Take the elevated monorail downtown to Center Street. The two men walked toward the train station several blocks along a littered street. The police, water truck, and crowds Song remembered from the previous night were gone. They found the monorail station exactly where Pitzy had described. They climbed a long flight of stairs covered in food wrappers and empty water bottles, jumped a turnstile, and soon walked across the platform and climbed into a poster-covered train. He saw the signs on the side of the car that read State Built and Citizens United. Over the posters were painted Poison Water Orphan and Thirsty. Song saw a few passengers on the train wearing surgical masks. The train pulled away seconds later. The warm air of the car hit Song heavily. A feeling of exhaustion washed over him. He would have indeed fallen asleep had it not been for the view. He did not look at Moreland once as he watched the bluff's homes pass below. Song noticed an interactive route map above the train doors outlining the rail line. The train was headed toward something called the Metro Spaceport. As his exhausted mind puzzled over what the spaceport might be, he realized advertisements ran over an intercom system. One ad was for the local lottery with the billion-dollar pool, and another was for mental illness medicine. The soft female voice said, "Bipolar disorder getting you down?" Then another ad for a video game. After a while, the continuous background noise trailed off into his subconscious. Song watched through the window in mesmerized fascination. The houses were large within the bluffs and appeared to be the only place within eyeshot, with trees and grass. Beyond the bluffs was a massive wall of skyscrapers. The Baytropolis business district soon seemed to consume them. When he looked up, the upper building floors hung in a haze. Song and Moreland got off the train at Center Street and walked toward the main police headquarters. The trash-littered streets were still mostly empty. Flashing billboards and neon signs were everywhere. Song's stomach growled as he watched large images of happy people eating ramen noodles and drinking ice-cold cola. Song noticed all the signs had one thing in common. selling some product or service wrapped around happiness. As they walked by one sidewalk advertisement board, it said in a pre-recorded voice, "Welcome, Outworlder. Please come into the store and buy your first item at 20% off." Song saw a few dented taxis pass them. The electric engines of the small hatchbacks were nearly silent. It was still early when Song and Moreland finally reached the downtown police headquarters. The black building occupied the whole block. It was circled with a tall metal fence, topped with razor wire with only one way in or out, a wrought iron gate between two guard towers. Beyond that was a plaza lined with navy blue squad cars. The station's front door had a high archway with the designation Precinct 001 cast into the black metal. Above this mantel was a row of concrete Romanesque-style columns, with each pillar having a waving flag, a golden eye of providence centered on a black field. Along the triangle's bottom edge that enclosed the eye was the Latin phrase Novus Ordo Seclorum. "How do we get into that?" Moreland asked. "We don't," Song said. "We wait." And they did. They waited on the far side of the street in a rat-infested alley the whole day. And the entire time, Song pondered only one topic. How can the answer to this problem come out of silence? How can anyone quiet the static to hear the solution? At this moment, the mall rule was the stupidest thing he could ever imagine. He was in the most desperate situation of his life. Nothing he could imagine could fix this. And what works for little kids could not possibly work now for adults. How could Robbie have done this to me? The last time Song had been this mad at his friend was when they spent the night in jail on spring break. The Mexican police had not been humored when Moreland had pulled Song into a La Puntilla Plaza water fountain. Now, as the sun set, Song's anxiety peaked. "Has your plan changed?" Moreland asked. "It's getting cold. What if the thief is not here? And by the way, I'm starving." Song had no other ideas. "We're sleeping in shifts." "And we're going to freeze again," Moreland grumbled. "In shifts." Early in the morning, a kick woke Song. "What's going on?" he asked groggily. "We have company," Moreland said. Song saw two petite men standing in the alley wearing black surgical masks. "Citizens, Precinct 1 Police Authority," the first man said. "What are you doing here? It's past curfew. You lost?" "What makes you think that?" Song said as he got to his feet. He had been sleeping against the wall and his back was stiff. "Because you wouldn't be out here after dark if you were from around here," said the second officer. "We're in front of a police station," Moreland said. Both men laughed at this. Song had a sinking feeling. "We're here for your currency units," said the first man. "That is the payment for us looking the other way." A feeling of terror struck Song. They had avoided the police and now fell into their clutches without a fight. His response was timid and weak. "We're not carrying any currency." "Of course you are," said the first man. He held up his hand with the palm facing out. Song could see the dim green light in the dark. "We want your scanners. Don't make this any more difficult than it has to be." He pulled a knife from his boot. It was long and menacing and glinted in the dim light. "If you don't struggle, we won't kill you." The second officer brought up a small handheld computer. "I am not reading them." He shook the device. "No scanner?" The first officer walked forward hesitantly. "You aren't citizens of Earth? Martian?" The second officer repeated it. "Are you Martians? Speak." Moreland yelled out, "Jin! Duck!" Song dropped to his knee as a tin sign with the printed words, "Police Zone. No loitering," sailed over his head. It crashed into the nose of the first man, making a grotesque cracking noise and knocking him to the concrete. Moreland jumped next to Song with his fists up. He looked more panicked than threatening. The standing officer quickly helped up his dizzy, bleeding partner. They turned and hurried away down the dark street. "Wow," Song said. "I can't believe that worked." "Neither can I." "Good job, though." He patted his friend on the back. "Still, you could have just told them we didn't have scanners." Moreland smiled. "I didn't think we had much of an option. Sure, we don't have the scanners, but going to jail almost seemed worse for some reason." A squad car raced down the street with its blue strobe lights flashing. Song pointed. Maybe that scared them away. They weren't real cops. The police gate pulled back, and the car drove into the well-lit plaza. It had yellow numbers on the side, with a golden eye of Providence on the door. 3 police officers exited the main headquarters front doors, leading a rumpled, shackled criminal. One of the officers carried a black metal briefcase. The cuffed man was the one from Song's apartment, the briefcase thief. Thank the heavens! Song had not been sure if the Asian man was even alive until that moment. The last time he had seen him, he had been on the ground and looked dead. The officers hustled the man into the waiting patrol car. It pulled out of the plaza, through the gate, and went down the street. The car number was 98A. They're headed to the spaceport. Song took off running. Did you see? It said Metro Spaceport Authority on the trunk. I remember seeing that the monorail had a stop at the spaceport. Come on. They rushed to Center Street and boarded a train heading deeper into the city. Song watched as the overcast early morning sky lightened while Moreland slept. An hour and 10 minutes later, Song heard the friendly automated female voice come over the intercom. Last stop, Interplanetary Spaceport. He slapped his friend on the arm to wake him. Robbie, that's us. The train came to a smooth stop. It only took Song and Moreland a minute to get through the turnstiles, down the stairs, and into the port. They passed a big red sign with a skull and crossbones that read, Mask for your own protection. Be safe and distance yourself from others. Song found an information kiosk with a map. The port was the size of a small city. A network of narrow streets connected the docking bays, shopping centers, and hotel complexes. One main street, called Cardo Maximus, cut straight into the port city, stopping at a yellow star. Song tapped the star with his finger. That's the Spaceport Authority. They went down the lane with early travelers walking to and fro. Soon, Song and Moreland came to an open cafeteria area. Song knew that they would have to turn left here. Before rushing through the mass of tables and chairs, he stopped, stunned. On the right, he saw a large placard in front of a fenced-off archaeology site. His hair stood on end when his eyes started scanning the board. He felt every nerve ending in his body send an alert. He read, Native American Burial Site. The placard had a map of the area, and under it he read, Bayville Mount Settlement. There were pictures on the placard of Native American Indians holding pots. Under that it read, Mohegan Tribe, circa 1545. He turned abruptly and walked away. All he could think next was, we need that briefcase. It took Song and Moreland 15 more minutes to find the authority headquarters. Up here, Song was pointing down the street. They turned a corner to reveal a building in the port's central hub. It was tall and dark, with inward-sloping walls reaching into the sky. A golden eye of Providence was painted above the main entrance. The only common element between this and the other police station was the line of Roman-style columns over the entranceway. Song patted his friend on the shoulder in triumph. Look! At the end of a line of patrol cars was Squad 98A. "Why bring this guy to the spaceport?" Moreland said. "Jin? It doesn't make any sense at so many levels. I don't know where to start with that." 3 police officers and Moreland's briefcase came out the front doors of the headquarters. They had with them an Asian man, who was now dressed in bright orange coveralls. The words, "Scott Crater Penitentiary," were stenciled on the back of his shirt. The officers and the chained criminal climbed into an electric cart and buzzed away down a small lane. "Come on," Song said. "We're going to lose them."